Good evening again. It's 11:30 Eastern Time. It's obviously it's Wednesday, June 6th, D-Day. You know, the day when the Allies stormed the beaches of Normandy. And once again, Europe is shaking itself free from totalitarian nonsense, which the EU was bringing it towards. I've been following the Italian uh, politics for a couple years, not too long. I guess, earlier than that, of course, there was the Berlusconi era. Wasn't really interested in it as much then, even though there were all those like weird orgies that he was involved in. But I think that it's really evolved into something else. One second, let me just open one of these. Mute myself. Uh, in before the dirty shelf. Indeed, you are. Pinochet did a video yesterday. I think it was, what did he do it on? Xenophobia. It was like 2 minutes long, so go check out his channel. That's just to show you, I do watch your videos. Look, I'm not an asshole like the rest of your friends. So we're gonna go through a few stories today. First one being Italy's new populist government, and there's really a lot of anxiety going on right now across the globalist leadership around the world. When I say globalist, I'm talking about a lot of these leaders who are a little more close to the banks. The world, the debt system, which I think it's not the best way to run the world. We're gonna be joined a little later um, by number 80 to talk about the Anthem. We always talk about the Anthem, me and him. But other than that, I just got a message from him. So other than that, I do think that we're at an upward momentum right now as far as being, a country that's digging itself out of a lot of doldrums of the past 20, 30 years under Clinton and Obama and Bush and the other Bush. I think other countries are kind of grabbing onto that momentum. Italy, one of the reasons I've called this show, more of my live streams, American Gladio, is because the Gladio term was used during the Cold War to talk about CIA networks of agents that were basically a shadow government in some of these European countries. The most famous of these cases was in Italy. There were a lot of Masonic lodges that were involved with the CIA in getting a lot of these Italians to fight the communists during the Cold War. But these same people, they were very corrupt. They were very connected to some really shady shit involving the banks and the Vatican, and also narcotics dealing for a while, especially in the late 40s and 50s through Sicily and through Corsica, which is in neighboring France. And that type of corrupt way of dealing with the world has become habitual for the United States, and it's really a stain on our record as a country that promotes a way of life that we call freedom around the world: freedom, liberty, constitutional republic. They're not really able to handle it so well. What the hell's going on here? So before we read this article, I do want to say that there's so many idiots here who are watching the NBA Finals right now. I'm just gonna check on my phone for a second, see if it's. I mean, because these people, though, I'm in groups with other people, and they just will message me. I don't remember how to silence it, but yeah, it's fucking over. It's a 3-0 game. It's a 3-0 series. I mean, the NBA. I've said before, and I hope you guys did vote in my poll from last week. What the hell is the point already? You know that as the league is today, there's going to be 2 teams in the finals every year, Cleveland and Golden State. It's almost as if the NBA needs its own Brexit. You need Kevin Durant and LeBron James to leave the teams that they're on and go to some team, redistribute the talent, I guess you would call it. I mean, maybe that's a little bit of a collectivist way to look at it, but I mean, I don't think it's entertaining. I don't know if any of you guys think it's entertaining. Um, we have we have Wally here. He's in the chat. Thanks for tuning in, man. No, there's not a lot going on tonight. So thanks for tuning in. Uh, so anyway, this is Canada's state media, CBC News. Okay, if you're gonna call RT Russia's state media, you're gonna have to call the CBC the same thing. It says no one tell Donald Trump about Italy's new populist government. Politicians who promise all sorts of foolish things on debt forgiveness are suddenly running the country. 6 years ago, confident and sleek and super rich and looking out over the team of mathematicians he employed to gain even the smallest advantage in the game of buying and selling money itself, John Taylor spoke in absolutes about the destiny of the euro. Europe's common currency, he declared, was already dead, a chicken with its head cut off. So Taylor's FX Concepts, at the time the largest currency hedge fund in the world, was shorting the euro, placing large bets that it would tank or explode if it did. Taylor would become a great deal richer, and if it didn't, well, more on that in a moment. Let me see this. Yeah, they're still messaging about that stupid game. I have to find out a way to mute this. 1 second, because it's going to drive me nuts. Here we go. All right. If it did, Taylor would become a great deal richer, and if it didn't, well, more on that in a moment. He was unconcerned about being denounced as an evil figure by European leaders struggling to contain the euro crisis across Atlantic. It cannot survive. It is unfortunately the truth. A week or so later, at her headquarters in Washington, D.C., the impossibly self-possessed International Monetary Fund Managing Director Christine Lagarde shrugged when I asked her about Taylor's Big Short. Unwise, she said, to bet against sovereign nations. At the end of the day, a sovereign is a sovereign and can eventually actually decide what rules apply and what the principles will be. A year later, FX Concepts went out of business. So this is a person they're holding out to be like this great symbol of standing up to evil capitalism. This international banker for the IMF, Christine Lagarde. What happened was precisely what Lagarde predicted. The sovereign governments of the Eurozone, speaking in the person of European Central Bank President Mario Draghi, had made it clear they would not allow the bloated debt of Italy, Greece, Spain, Portugal, and Ireland to take down the common currency. The ECB, Draghi declared in July of 2012, was ready to do whatever it takes to preserve the euro. Think about it that way. They said, now I know this sounds a little tinfoil hat like, but they're saying they'll do whatever it takes to preserve the euro. So that could be a lot of like ridiculous shit, like bringing in hundreds of thousands and millions of immigrants from countries that have nothing in common with the Euro peoples. It could be like banning all sharp objects as they're doing in Britain right now. Although I guess that's a little bit to the side because Britain is technically leaving the EU, even though they're fucking up every stage of it. The ECB, Draghi declared in, I already read that part. That famous, remarkable statement calmed the credit markets and allowed Italy and other big debtors to keep right on borrowing. Greece, meanwhile, forces creditors to accept write-downs or haircuts, and the ECB bailed it out. And the euro crisis, which had dominated headlines for months, seemed to disappear. Life carries on, but compound interest is one of nature's most relentless forces. The problem only worsened. Draghi was forced to make good on his vow. In 2015, the ECB began printing money, about 2 trillion euros to date, and lending it to the union's more troubled government, some of which used the relief to make necessary reforms and got their books in order. But not Italy. Italy just got scarier. So that was the left-wing government that was in power until about March. Let me see here. We have Pinochet saying a Marxist authoritarian leading Germany, a pussy leading France, and Russia grabbing at neighboring countries. Sound familiar? Second. So then it says, for all its beauty and gourmet wonders, Italy is a country with an unsustainable system of preferences, monopolies, and entitlements it borrows heavily to maintain, and which its voters seem unwilling to ever give up. As a result, the country has had practically no economic growth in 16 years. Unemployment is chronic. Its debt to GDP ratio is now about 130%. Whoa. Second only to Greece, which effectively remains a welfare case. And for those of you that don't know what that means, for every dollar that you make, you lose $1.30. And so all the time you're just fucking losing. It's like basically being on the Buffalo Bills. And Italian politicians who try economic reforms, like former prime ministers Mario Monti and Matteo Renzi, don't last long. Instead, Italian voters favor leaders who tell them what they want to hear, that illegal immigrants rather than calcified labor laws or Italians' reluctance to have children are to blame for an increasingly un-Italian and unemployed Italy, or that Germany's dominance of Europe and not Italy's overspending and borrowing is responsible for the state of Italy's economy, or that big tax cuts and a guaranteed basic income are possible, or that the small pension reforms care. How much you guys want to bet there's no comment section on this fucking article? Or that the small pension reforms carried out in previous years can be reversed, or that entitlements can continue ad infinitum. As a result, politicians who declared and promised all those foolish things are suddenly running the country. The Five-Star Movement and the Northern League Coalition are threatening to swing a Trump-like hammer just without the full weight and credit of the U.S. government to back them up. Advising immigrant deportations are about to begin, expanding spending, even demanding that the Euro authorities simply write off 250 billion euros of Italian debt. No, said that. So this guy is basically taking he's taking basically the attitude of, saying, well, the Euro government, they're the smart people, they're the ones who are going to lead Italy's going to ruin everything. Everything's going so fine and going so smooth. The Italians are going to fuck everything up. Look, Italy is bearing the brunt of this immigrant influx, because even if those immigrants don't stay there, a lot of them just flow through there. They get there on boats, and then they flow through Italy towards other parts of Europe. But in the meantime, they're trashing the entire country. Southern Italy is already a dump, and this is already one of the poorer parts of Europe, Southern Italy. Then you get Northern Italy. They don't need all these immigrants coming in and basically providing a cheaper labor force for Italy's massive industry up in the north, the Po Valley, which is one of the three motors of Europe. Or is it four motors of Europe? I don't remember. I can never remember it. Well, one of them, I think, is the Ruhr Valley in Germany. Then there's Catalonia, and the Po Valley in Italy is one of the other ones. So, this influx of immigrants into Italy, how does it benefit the country? It doesn't. Italy also has, culturally, they're not exactly a society of everybody talks about America is a nation of immigrants. Italy is not a nation of immigrants. Italy is a country where people leave. If it sucks in Italy, you fucking leave. It's the same as Ireland. Everybody knows that. That's why there's like 3 cities over here where you go. Everybody's yard has like a Virgin Mary in the front yard with and the flag, the Italian flag, and like a fountain or something. Some old Italian lady. I like them. I like the Italians here in Ohio, but it's not a nation of immigrants, Italy. It's a nation of people who leave, and it never has been good for them to have large scale immigration. I mean, it's not a country that culturally is good at absorbing a lot of people from foreign countries. Let me see here. We're gonna jump to another topic, but I would like people to refresh their memory. Okay, who were the people who dumped Europe into this shitty crisis of debt? Uh, in my opinion, you can't blame it on anti-immigration people. Okay, who are the people who started all these wars in Libya and across the Middle East, or interventions or other ways of disrupting normal life in these third world countries? It wasn't Italian nationalists like the Five Star Movement and the Lega. It just isn't, and it's very dishonest of people to go after Italy and claim that it's like a super racist country. It is a racist country. Let's not beat around the bush. But we're not here to change. This is a Canadian media here, state media, and they're pretending that they can preach good character and ethics to a country that's much older than them, that has nothing to do with them. Italy is a country that was basically uh, has been run by these corrupt uh, banking connected politicians since the 40s. Before that was run by the fascists as well. And in each of these stages, the more you concentrate power at the top, which is it happens very often in Italy. They have a national police force and everything. The more possibilities for abuse you get. I mean, a lot of the problems that we are finding to be new with the FBI, even though there have been things in the past too. Let's not pretend the FBI was perfect until like 10 years ago. Um, a lot of those things are kind of normal everyday activities in Italy. Watching a policeman cover up a murder. It's like, you go outside. It's like, hey Enzo, well, what are you doing? Why you covering that thing with the carpet? And basically he takes his gun out, waves it at you, and he's like, hey, just waiting till the Camorra can come and take it away. The in Italy, actually getting criminal justice is kind of the exception and not the rule. Okay? See any comments here? Pinochet, I just watched a video on how many ex-East Germans and children and grandchildren of Nazis are in high-ranking unelected positions in the EU. Hopefully this populist movement will take root before Merkel and Juncker can form the EU army. They're arming up as we speak. Yeah, great point. I'm pretty sure Pinochet is on the same page as I am. I don't think you do bring up Germany, and what do you do with those people who were former East Germans? The grandchildren of Nazis. I think I mean, it doesn't reflect well on you. Coming from myself as a Jew, somebody told me, "Hey, my grandpa was a Nazi," I'd be like, "Sheesh." you know, Have a nice day. I'll see you later. but there's actually people within no yeah, you can still join. I can send you, let me see, there's a way for me to send you a link. Hold on. Or I could just call you. Yeah, I can call you. 1 second. um
What's up?
You calling from your car or something?
Nah, I just put my. That's my cell phone. I want to use my laptop, but you just randomly called.
Oh, okay.
So I, so I didn't want it to like just keep ringing and you're like, what the hell? I just sent you an invite. Hold up. Is there a way I can switch to my laptop? Let me see.
Yeah, you can call me back from the laptop if you want. But
All right, that's better. I'll pop back in a minute. Hold up.
okay. So we're gonna talk about the anthem with 80 when he comes back. I'll just keep talking about Italy for the time being. So Pinochet brings up a nice point. There's it's not only with Germany, and I know people look. I hate the Nazis too. At the same time, there's kind of there's a type of Nazi for every country, or almost any country. Let's not generalize. I don't think that there's a lot of Peruvian Nazis. Um, and he brought up the East Germans. Francesca Mogherini, who is or no, it's Federica Mogherini. She's I think she's the defense minister of Italy, of not Italy, but the entire EU. She's a foreign minister. Where did she get her start? In the where is this? Italian Communist Youth Federation. And then she left and became I think she was in a Maoist party for a while. She looks pretty hot compared to compared to Angela Merkel. She probably looks next to Angela Merkel. He makes her look pretty much like an Ottoman footstool or something. It's like not even close. Although she is she's up there in age. 44. 44. She doesn't look bad for a 44-year-old woman. She's a fucking communist though, so Pinochet. He'd have to answer. Would you go with her, knowing that your political beliefs are as they are? Larry Gerke's back. I've been missing you, man. Thanks for coming back. I thought you were kind of pissed off for some reason, or it also might have been because I didn't really, I haven't really been in touch that much. I haven't done as many live streams. Here we go. Okay, so we have number 80 back. Do you want to keep talking about Italy, or do you want to move on to another topic?
I know nothing about Italy. Other than what you were ranting about, the last thing I think I heard you say was Italy was racist.
Well, you go to like any country, they have like a country that they hate, and I think in Italy they really hate the British for some reason. But they also hate these immigrants from Northern Africa and everything, because like Italy has like these two regions. The southern region is really kind of like, it's the kind of Italy that we think about when we watch Sopranos, or well, not Sopranos, but you know what I'm talking about, like that's the Italy that produced the mafia. And northern Italy is kind of a snobby region, and there's not much of a middle ground there. Now, there are a lot of leftist people in Italy that, they're for mass immigration, but they don't really they don't represent the working class anymore.
Interesting.
Okay, so you are here to talk about, of course, what happened with the Eagles did not go to the White House. Is that one of the topics you want to talk about? Or there's also the issue of the Kardashian and there was the commutation of a sentence today. Or you can bring up any topic you want. Stay as long as you want. What's that?
Those two are fine.
So when you found out that President Trump rescinded the invitation, did you think that it was that big of a deal? Do you think like ESPN should have like made a huge focus on it as they did yesterday?
About the Eagles?
Yeah, the Eagles not coming to the White House.
I don't know. It's kind of starting to become a trend, but Like I don't. To me, honestly, it just seems like it's one of those things just to kind of like flash a light and say, another he's did another fucked up thing. Like it's starting to kind of get old. Like I don't like Trump at all, but at the same time, it just seems like they're reaching for anything that they can do to kind of put his name in the media in a negative light. Like again, I don't like the guy at all, but at
Hmm.
the same time, it's like whatever. Like if he wants to withdraw it, but the thing about it, it makes him seem very petty.
Right, and I don't think that. I think it's pretty easy to agree that he's very petty and goes into, he's kind of a sniping individual. Like he's like an alpha male, goes into situations trying to. I mean, he's going to the G7 summit next week. He might be, he might go like take a piss and leave the seat up for Trudeau when he goes to take a dump after that. That's something he would do. That's the way Trump acts, and I think let me know what you think about this. Okay, do you think that some of these people at ESPN and in the sports media, they're basically falling for a lot of his tricks, and he's playing them for fools?
I definitely don't think he's playing them at all. I think he's just responding and being very emotional, and they're just running with it. They're just reacting to it. I think all of these things that he's doing aren't like calculated. Like it's not trolling. Like there is no calculation to it. There is no like in game. There's no game plan. Like he's just saying shit, and people are just responding to it.
Yeah, but they're losing ratings all the time. ESPN people are like, I even saw last week their cable, or I think it was a week and a half ago. I did an article. Here, I'll show you the article I wrote last week, if you can still see the screen. Um, you want to talk about Bill Clinton later, or you kind of trying to go to bed or something?
Bill Clinton. What's going on with Bill
Oh,
Clinton?
you didn't hear about it? Well, you'll want to stick around or at least listen if you want to go offline. It's kind of
The
funny.
last the last thing I seen about Bill Clinton was this picture. I don't know if it was Photoshop, but there was like this picture. It looked like Trump was grabbing his junk. It was funny.
Yeah, it's a very disturbing image in my head. So the fact is that ESPN lost 500,000 subscribers just in the month of April. So they're really losing a lot of their business, and a lot of their talent is leaving um, for Fox Sports One, which has Skip Bayless, the other weirdo that used to be on First Take. So my feeling is that Trump has found, and they call it this. They say that he's found a great punching bag in the NFL. Whenever he needs to really, score some easy points, he just does this whole anthem thing, which I yesterday I got a little pissed off. I was like, this is retarded already. I don't give a shit anymore. They reported that the Eagles were kneeling before the game. It turned out it was just like a prayer circle or something. And I almost blew a gasket about these Fox News people just exaggerating everything. It's like, this is a lot of stupid virtue signaling over the flag, and they're insulting the military and everything. Because in reality, I think the protest is, a lot of it is nonsense. A lot of these players don't really believe in it. At the same time, a lot of the people opposing the protest are also full of shit, and they don't really have any beliefs in anything besides getting mad at stuff. So I think it's just like a very easy way for him to score points against ESPN, which I don't like ESPN anymore, but I'm tired of hearing all the noise around it. Is there a lot of talk about that on this on everyday life where you live? Because over here people are waiting for the finals to end and the sweep to happen.
Nah, we've been talking about basketball. Like the biggest topic that came up is are the Warriors going to sweep the Cavaliers? Which, by the way, it looks like that's going to happen. But I still say Warriors in five. I think the Cavaliers might sneak in one game, but the way that they're playing, they're probably going to get swept. But they're still going to lose for sure. But as far as on the political end, I mean, honestly, a lot of these things are like burning out. You have like I said before, I'm not like a huge fan of Trump, but like It's like every damn day it's something else. Like I really don't. It's starting to get to the point where it's like, man, I really, really, really don't give a shit anymore. Like this is just beyond ridiculous. Like you guys are beating a dead horse right now. Like I get it. He's an idiot. Like can we move on now?
Well, the thing is, like they try to make everything that he does into a failure, but some of the stuff that happens is just like everyday life things. With the whole what he did that ceremony yesterday, which I thought was that's something that was like if I was going to cancel the meeting with the Eagles, I would have canceled the whole thing. I would have just said I'm going to go talk to whoever it is that I talk to on my spare time, like
He's
Dennis
gonna go
Rodman
watch
or
some.
something, anybody, rather than put the ceremony yesterday with the flag and whatever. But he ended up doing it, and then people were making fun of the fact that maybe he didn't know the words to God Bless America. I was like, a lot of people don't know the words to God Bless America because we never sang it in school. Also, I couldn't even hear his voice. So, by the way, Arjun wants to join in case you want to take off later. But I don't think you've never been on the stream with Arjun, have you?
I have no clue who that is.
He's that Indian guy that we've had on before. So 1 second. Let me see if I can add him.
Well, I know Trump got a lot of flack last time too for not knowing the national anthem. Now that one was hilarious because you can't be complaining about something in this idea of respect, but like you're fucking up the words.
No, but when did that happen with the anthem? I don't remember
That
him
was
not.
the he was at a college game
Yeah,
and
but it's
he
not.
can't
They can't hear his voice. What are they reading lips?
probably I don't know. I forgot what it was, but it just looked funny. It was just funny. Like I
Yeah, but
wish they could have muted his ass. That would have been if they would have just like been able to mute the music and be able to like kind of like I guess take the his vocals off and be able to play it by itself, like solo it. Um, that would have been hilarious.
well, I'll tell you what. While I'm adding Arjun,
Multi-billion-dollar idiot. I guess, man. If that makes up for the lack of intelligence, that's cool. One of your commenters. This is the first time I've actually read the comments while actually doing one of these feeds.
yeah, man, I've done that on another show where I'm like the only right winger. So
Oh, that should be fun.
yeah, so I was being called like a Nazi and the hell. Oh, I have to turn off my camera. 1 second. I'm gonna turn off my camera so I can add Arjun because otherwise I have to. It's hard for me to. 1 second. No. Okay, I have to get rid of this one. Remove.
Is this the rapper 1000? Yes, I rap on my spare time, but I am not the rapper 10,000.
No, the rapper 10,000 has never been on here, and I don't think he goes on. I think the rapper 10,000 has a job where he doesn't want to be on video camera. I don't even know if he calls into the ABL show because I know he watches that show, and I know he watches a couple other networks that I watch. So we're gonna add our June in a second.
Who
So
was the who was the lady earlier in the comment section? Was that the lady that you had on last time, or somebody completely different?
a lady,
The one in the comment section earlier. Not this one. When we were in the comment section on Facebook, the chick earlier.
oh, she's never been on this show. She's
Oh,
she's
okay.
uh she's she's somebody who's from I think Pennsylvania or something.
Pennsylvania. Got you.
So let's see here. Invite. So I just invited Arjun. Let's see if he can join. Um, he'll probably if he joins, it'll probably be very long. So if you need to go, just say that you need to go get some Nyquil or something and fall asleep because he can take a while. No offense, Arjun. Anyway, I had an idea. I wanted to pitch it to you. Okay, about this Anthem stuff. Arjun's here. What's going on, man? I'm talking about my idea instead of the Anthem protests with
Uh,
what's that?
talking about what? You talking about what?
You know how there's those Anthem protests for the football games,
Yeah. The NFL
I can't hear
protest,
him.
right?
right? What'd you say?
Can you hear me?
Number 80?
I can,
Yeah, we can hear
I
you.
can't hear him.
You can't
I can't hear him.
really.
You should ask the live feed if they can hear him.
Yeah,
The
can you guys
conversation.
hear? Can you guys hear Arjun?
That's what I want to see.
What's that?
Just talking about what?
Oh, I can. Okay, I can hear him. Okay.
You know how there's those Anthem protests for the. Okay, now I can hear myself. Tell us in the chat whether you can
The
hear
NFL,
Arjun.
right?
I can hear him, but 80 can't hear him.
Yeah, I can't hear him, and it's funny. Hello. Wait for it.
No, there's some delay. There is some delay happening.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah,
All right,
Pinochet can hear him.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
So look, I had an idea for what would be like the best outcome for this. Like these players who they want to affect criminal justice in the United States for minority communities. And this is a serious idea. This isn't me being an asshole. They would form like a legal defense fund that they would pay into, and basically people would, like, let's say, in Baltimore, if there were like all these like defendants for whatever, to throw out a crime like selling crack or something, they'd apply for their legal defense to be paid for by this fund. What do you think about that one?
What would they like? I mean, I'm following along, but I mean, like, so what's the thing? Like, they stop kneeling, they stop kneeling or protesting, they just kind of just pay into this fund and that's it.
Well, there's already a such thing as legal aid societies in the U.S. anyway, and the idea behind them is to, just provide for people who can't afford a lawyer, a defense attorney. So, that thing exists already. This one would be like they would get like their own discretion, and people would apply to them and they'd say, hey, I don't know, my meth lab blew up and the DEA showed up. So then if the case was compelling enough, they would oh shit, Pinochet just made me laugh. He just called us three fags.
Yeah, I called that.
Thanks, Pinochet, man. Who's gonna be watching your videos from now on?
Yeah.
And anyway, that would be an idea there where they could actually help some of these people that are under duress from the justice system. I mean, one of the problems that I see is really the key is that poor people don't have the same access to legal services that rich defendants do, because there are a lot of like middle class and even richer people that do sell drugs or things like that. What do you think about that idea?
Who wants to go first?
I honestly thought that you'd be like interested in that idea though. Okay, Arjun, go ahead. He punted it. Arjun, your turn.
This whole idea that somehow poor people like are not given proper legal protections. I don't know. It's based on an archaic and maybe outdated idea. Like at least in America, what I have seen in my life, or at least people have reasonable access to legal aid and all that. Like, right, and I don't know if it's politically correct or not. What it seems to me from the outside is like considering the amount of crime that happens, even black on black crime that happens in, say, the black community or any other minority community. I don't know, but like at least African Americans don't have like, I don't mean this in an offensive manner. African Americans, like, maybe they complain too much. This is an outsider's perspective. Because there's too much crime happening. Like even when they complain about like police brutality and all, the argument I have heard from like the police side is that like some of these criminals are on so much drugs, like they attack the police in such ways that we have to like safeguard ourselves. So I don't know. There are two sides to the story, which has compelling reasons on both sides. But yeah, that's my argument.
All right. Well, I mean, like my thing, and AD, you can go ahead and respond. I was kind of just talking about just aside, like a lot of people, they'll commit a crime, and really the difference between being convicted or not is whether you have an attorney that's competent. What do you say, AD?
Okay, so usually the way that it works out is that they're given a public defender, and the public defender usually wants to clean their hands with the case as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the time they try to tell them to cop a deal, and usually the deal won't benefit the person that they're defending at all. So I'll give you an example. I had a friend who was wrongly accused of stealing something, and his public defender kept telling him to. It's pointless to fight the case. You might as well just go ahead and say that you did it. Do the 3 or 6 months in jail, and then you get out, and then everything's going to be cool. And he's like, "No, I didn't do it. So why should I admit to something I didn't do?" And she kept pushing him, and she was like, "Well, if you do go through with this, and for any reason that they find you guilty, you're basically going to go to jail for longer than 3 to 6 months. I say just take the 6 months and then that's it." So he said that, you know what, I didn't do it. I'm going to go ahead and fight it, and I'm going to go head on against it. And he actually won, and he didn't have to do any time. But the point is, there's other people in situations similar to that, and they'll probably fold and say, you know what, man, like 3 months isn't so bad compared to 3 years. And they'll just take the plea deal and just say, okay, whatever, I plead guilty.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that in lieu of that, you only get the public defender if you don't have an attorney.
Yeah, exactly.
So
and you're saying that the them putting in money into a fund so that you can get like an adequate attorney, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a great idea. I was just explaining it for
for Arjun.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So
that happens. That happens also, quite.
Yeah, I also wanted to point out that there's not like every person that a police officer shoots wrongfully isn't hyped up on PCP or SHRM. It's not like a bunch
I understand. That's absolutely true. It happens. People get the short end of the stick. There's no doubt about it, right? Especially in the poor sections of society, there are people who get. But then, see, people look at like I'll give you the example of immigrants, right? People look at communities, if like depending like the outlook they have towards certain communities, it depends on the how responsible they are. If a community is not responsible, there'll be a generalized way of looking at them saying these guys are not responsible, we have to act towards them in a certain way, right? So if there is a general wave of a certain sort of behavior that persists in the community, then even if there are exceptions where people are innocent, people might get the short end of the stick more often than not, because a larger portion of those guys are not being responsible members of society, right? Not that I'm accusing anybody of anything. I'm just like sociologically speaking, this is how people react, right? Yeah, go ahead.
Now I was gonna say, like, I just want to make sure I'm clear on this. Are you saying that like police officers are rightfully stereotyping people?
No. I'm saying if there is a history of, I'm not saying anything about, say, particularly about the black community. If there is a history of a certain type of behavior, like police officers are behaving as per the history, right? So that kind of thing, if the case is that what do you say? If the case is that say I'm using example here that say there is more crime prevalent in a certain community, police officers will be more, I don't know, hard on that community, right? So it's like that. I'm like, am I being able to explain that clearly? I don't know.
Yeah, but then you will have you can have an incident where somebody is in a more prominent community and they might not fit the general demographic of the area, and you might have them approached by a police officer and there's still hostility involved in the interaction. So what would be the case there? It's not a bad area. It's not like, you're not responding to the what's normally in the area. You just is it then a stereotype, or is there then prejudice in that interaction?
See, that's the thing about prejudice. No, you don't know how it seeps into like the mindset of whoever is involved, right? Like, see, prejudice can be there for say valid reasons, right? There are valid reasons to check certain types of people in the airport more than other people, right? Because it's more likely that they are willing to blow themselves up compared to compared to other communities. So what do you say about that? Would you call that racial profiling or bias?
In the
Because it's a
airports?
fact that, yeah, no, it's a fact that people blow themselves up from, and more so from a certain community than any other community.
The
So,
Methodists.
to close.
That
Starts
so,
with an M.
so yeah, it's like what Arjun's saying is that like in certain cases you could I mean I saw TSA, he's talking about especially a TSA checkpoint at the airport. I've seen videos of them patting down like this really like this 95-year-old grandma in a wheelchair, like really like searching her because they're not really allowed to profile, so the checks absolutely have to be random, and it just isn't effective. So um, what he's talking about, I don't think it's really related to what My idea was kind of just more of a simple one where I would say, these athletes. I was trying to find a way that they could contribute something that they definitely could help with, which would be forming a new legal aid organization that would be very public and proactive, and they could raise a lot of money for it. But the issue that Arjun is bringing up is that unfortunately we do, that would help one side of the problem, which is a really criminal justice focused issue. But in reality, a lot of people who get in trouble with the law, they come from, a background where they're basically on a conveyor belt to trouble with the law. They have around them a lot of people who have been in trouble with the law. Whether it's whether it could be a relative that's been in prison, or a parent that's been on the run, a deadbeat dad, for example. Those types of things, I don't think that these NFL players can really solve, and that's really, I think that's what's magnifying all of these issues with police and citizen shootings, especially with the black communities. I think that's the problem, that these guys, they're not able to really get a handle on. And now that this Anthem protest stuff is really, it's just boxed them in, and it's all about the anthem and whether they're kneeling or not. People aren't talking about that at all. What do you say to that?
Me or Arjun?
To you, number 80.
Okay. Do me one favor. Just repeat the question one more time.
So
'Cause I
so
was reading.
like my solution is not a solution for everything. My solution is to propose something that the players can contribute to, that they do have power over. They do have like these salaries that they can pay into a fund like that. The real question is, how do we help prevent more people from getting in trouble with the law? And that's something that I don't think that they're addressing.
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think Colin Kaepernick actually had
The
a
suit giveaway.
it was like a camp or something. It was like a camp or like some sort of it wasn't a camp.
He had the suit
Whatever.
giveaway.
The suit give. He had that, but he also had this thing where he was talking to the youth about how to how to interact with police officers appropriately. Gave them a full rundown of their rights and to know their rights. And
Yeah, I have to say
it, it
that was a good idea on his part.
yeah, he did that. It was, I think it was in New York if I'm not mistaken, but yeah, so he did something like that, which is kind of like what you're talking about, because what he's doing is he's training people, or not training. Well, yeah, I guess training. He's giving people training and an understanding of how to probably interact with police officers without it ending fatally. I mean, but like I've said, I've had run-ins with police officers where it just seemed like they want you to give them a reason to do something, for them to do something, and it just gets to the point where it's just like willpower not to say something, or just to respond in a human manner. Like, you kind of actually have to put yourself like in a weird position where you kind of gotta take a step down on a human level and just kind of just like take this badgering from this person as if like they're not another human being. It's a
Yeah,
strange situation to find yourself in.
yeah. I think I see you also in the chat. You brought up the
Hmm.
Linwood Viking gang, which is it's a good point. A lot of people, and I have talked to a couple law enforcement people, not too many. I wouldn't say that I'm one of these Blue Lives Matter people. I think you have to accept that police have to be accountable, citizens have to be accountable too. So I don't take the side of either the protesters or the police. But I talked like a month ago with Gary Byrne of the Secret Service, who was also a police officer in the Air Force. They have a Air Force Tactical Police, I think they call themselves. Um, and he was talking about how the majority of police officers don't want confrontations; they'd rather have, good relations with the community. But um, number 80 was bringing up the issue of the Linwood Viking gang, which is a criminal enterprise that is infiltrating police forces in the California area. They're limited to white people, if I'm correct.
Yeah, it's a white supremacist gang in the sheriff's department.
So, something like that, I think, a lot of people, they simplify this, that, people on the right will say, well, you have to support the police. We need a society of laws. If the people maintaining the society of laws are not actually following the law themselves, then, it's really empty rhetoric. And, the Linwood Viking gang would be, and I don't know as much about it as you do, it would be an excellent point. If you could if one day you could send us some more information about that. But we're talking about a lot of the people on the right. They're talking about the FBI. The FBI has a lot of criminals and whatever with Andy McCabe, and then they're kind of talking out of both sides of their mouth at the same time. And I'm not saying we're wrong about the FBI, but you can't say at the same time that you distrust the FBI, but you still trust the local police, because you don't know what the local police are doing. They could have some sort of outfit the way that number 80 is talking about in L.A. County. Is it only L.A. County, by the way?
Yeah, but there's also a sub faction called the 3000 Boys that's actually infiltrated the actual inside the prison officers, the correctional officers on the inside.
Right.
So they've pretty much expanded. It's like the 3000 Boys. I think there's the 2000 Boys. There's like a couple of different factions, but it's more than one.
So these organizations, these kind of cliques within these law enforcement organizations, they make it harder for people to have real confidence that law enforcement, it really means law enforcement and not enforcement of the will of these police organizations, like the FBI, if this were to happen in the U.S. Marshals, for example, which is responsible for prisoner transportation, I mean, imagine if prisoners would be transported and they'd just be shot along the way, from state to state. It would be unacceptable. Some of these people are witnesses to other crimes. You need them to be available for witness testimony and other things. And they're also, they're entitled to due process of law. Let's not forget that. Um, Number 80 and Arjun, the two of you come from completely different parts of the world, and you have different interactions with the police. Obviously, India has a totally different type of police system. I think that you guys have more of a state police, state level, and then federal level. But um, has the last year or so made you less confident in in the system of law and order in your country. And here in the U.S. we've had these police shootings. We've also had the FBI scandal. What about you, Arjun?
See, people in India have had a very spotty relationship with the police, right? Like, see, India is a very weird country. Like, there are vast tracts of the country where there is no police presence, but people still live peacefully. Okay, but on the other hand, the police see, the police believe in India for a very long time. I've believed one thing: if you have to walk into a police station, that means there must be something wrong with you. You must be somewhat guilty. So the first thing that when they arrest you is they just put you in a jail and they just beat you with sticks. Like, they just beat the hell out of you. Whether you're no lawyer, no nothing, they just beat you, right? So so like half the time there are like some coerced confessions, this that people just confess just to get for the beating to stop. Like, if they really want to put the screws to you, they tie you to a block of ice and they beat you. So, but over the last, I would say, 15 years, it has like this has like changed a bit. Like, the police has eased up because of changing values. But state police, especially if it's a state which is ruled by left-leaning parties, the police tends to be incompetent and corrupt. Like the and because, see, they have all the information here. Like, they know who's doing what, but the fact is they don't act. Because why? If you go to them, they say there's political pressure. So it's a very spotty relationship that the public has with the police. The public would rather not go to the police at all if they can help it. Like, if you like, I'll give you an example. But recently, what happened was my grandmom's driver. He he was at work. Like, he was at work. His wife is about 19 years old, right? She's recently had a baby. This boy himself is about 22 years old. They've been married for a year. So the fact is that they're very young. Now, now they live in a ghetto-like area. This guy's wife, she went to the local sort of the water source, and then she wanted to get some water. Now, water in that place that day, it was being rationed because of some shortage or whatever. So there was some argument with the neighbor, and the neighboring girl and her mother, the ones who lived next to their house, they just picked up a brick and hit them on the head. Right, hit her on the head, and then she had to be hospitalized or whatever. They complained to the police. The police came, arrested her, and then let them go like after a few hours. So so when this guy went back, said, "Why did you let them go?" I said, we'll arrest them again. If required, we'll arrest them again. We've got their details. We've got their case. But the fact is, they were supposed to hold them, but they let them go. Now, the only reason they can let them go is for two reasons: either political pressure, because they were working for the local political party, or they had money. Now, in this case, they didn't have money. So obviously, they were supporters of the local political party. So the police let them go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and if I'm correct, I think they were Muslim also. So in Bengal, that's the thing.
So I think that obviously number 80 there's in California there's a much more racially heterogeneous population there. There's a lot of there's black people, Asians, Iranians. You have people from Mexico,
Armenians.
yeah, Armenians and whatever. And what Arjun's talking about, Bengal. I mean, it's not like all the Indian people are the same, but um, it's not the same issue. Let's face it. But I would like to submit that it is a little bit of a class issue, and I'm not a Marxist,
Yeah.
but if you have a little more money, it's easier to deal with the police in most countries. And if you're completely broke and poor, then it's not. So we're talking about a poverty issue. We're talking about an issue of, and obviously police standards. We can't let the police just turn into, talking about tying people to a block of ice. That sounds like something out of Pulp Fiction or something. Um, I really think that this idea of giving a legal aid society is the best idea that I can come up with for these NFL people to do something without constantly just getting into these political disputes. In terms of solving the issue as a whole, um, I think what Kaepernick did with talking to those kids was a good idea. Telling people, notifying them of their legal rights, how to speak to police, everything like that. I don't know if it will really be effective because, like you said, there are police officers that are really aggressive and are looking to victimize people or even, possibly even rob them. You know, things like that happen. There was that false report a couple weeks ago with Sean King that we all laughed at with him and the fake complaint over in Texas. But there are things like that do happen. I think there was a case it wasn't in Texas. It was in New York State where there was an officer who raped a suspect. So things like that do happen. But when you have copycats who report some of these allegations falsely, it doesn't help the cause of giving due process to all criminals or suspected criminals. What do you think about that? I didn't get a chance to ask you because you haven't been on the show, number 80. Somebody like Sean King, he's exposed some incidents of actual police malpractice, and he's exposed some things that are kind of just head scratchers that turn out to be false. Do you think that he's a credible journalist anymore? He's not working for the Daily News anymore, but I know he does work for TYT.
Really? I think I would really have to. I would have to look at his track record, to be honest with you. But I mean, if it's like, if you had a few stories that were kind of like you said, head scratchers, then I mean, you might get a pass. But I think if it's half and half, then that's a pretty big difference. You shouldn't of like fake stories or falsely, I guess, falsely based stories. And as stories that actually pan out to be true, that's a pretty bad percentage or ratio. Especially if you're a journalist,
Right, and I think me and Arjun do a little work now with news stuff. I like to call it. I don't call it journalism because I like to keep it informal. But um, I really make it like an effort not to report stuff that I can't prove. That's really the emphasis that I have, and it's kind of maddening. So I have to bring up Fox News, which I slammed as being fake yesterday for the Eagles thing. But if you guys see the screen, it says Sean King slammed for pushing woman's now discredited claim trooper sexually assaulted her. And what I found, I get it. He has a job to do. I think he's kind of a joke. Sean King, he works for The Intercept, which has some good news and some news that's kind of bullshit. But the account that was featured here was straight out of that movie Crash with Don Cheadle, and which I think Don Cheadle. I mentioned Don Cheadle. I thought he was the best actor in the movie. Some of the movie was kind
Terrence
of
Howard.
that. Terrence Howard was good too, but some of it was really exaggerated. Brendan Fraser, he sucked in that movie. He was
Wait, Brandon Fraser was in that movie?
yeah, he was the really white district attorney dude.
That's funny because I remember there was that movie, and then there was that other damn movie that came out it was like 3 events that happened in 3 different parts of the world, and then somehow they were related. What is it? Babel? Babel? Was it that?
I don't think I saw that one.
I think it was I think that's a movie that was made by the same people that made Crash.
Yeah,
It
so
was a movie though.
all
Yeah,
I'm,
it's
sa-
Babel.
all I'm saying is that what happened in this account that was given to Sean King is word for word like the same thing that happened to the Thandie Newton's character who was groped by Matt Dillon's character. And I was reading it, I was like, okay, maybe if this would have happened and I didn't know it was fake, I wouldn't have been able to catch it. But it still sounded like the movie Crash. So I don't know. I don't think that there's a good solution to it. I think people just have to be responsible for themselves, which is kind of a corny way to end the topic. Does anybody want to talk about Well, there's this guy. He refused to go to the White House 6 years ago to meet Barack Obama because he was a right-wing guy. He got condemned by ESPN. Just wanted to put that out. Tim Thomas of the Boston Bruins in hockey. I think, to be
Didn't
fair,
the Patriots not go to see Obama or something? Was it the Patriots?
the Patriots went.
Who was it? Or did certain players not go?
No, it was the Bruins. It was a hockey team. One player.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, I think that there is kind of a double standard with Trump and Obama, and that's something. I think this Anthem thing is blown out of proportion, but I think he does know what he's doing when he's exploiting it in order to get better ratings for things like that. Now, who wants to talk about our favorite president, William Jefferson Clinton? Anybody? You don't seem too excited, 80.
I'm just here, man.
So, look,
what can we talk about? Not already been said like 10 million times.
Oh my God, he went on TV the past couple of days, and he just made a complete fool of himself. And I don't think you guys can't hear it unless I send you the clip, right? So, basically, I'll just talk about it. So this guy, if you can see the screen, he's Craig Melvin, who's the reporter for Today Show, and
Craig Melvin.
Yeah, Craig Melvin.
Two first names.
What? Yeah.
Two first names.
Yeah, I mean it happens. So there's the full interview is on my article. The article is in the description. So essentially, this was a horrible thing to happen this week for the Democrats because they want Bill Clinton not to be in the news for things related to sexual harassment. And basically, this guy asked him on his book tour. He has a news tour about this fiction book that he wrote with James Patterson called "The President is Missing," and we'll get to the how funny that title is later. But they were just there to sell some damn books because Bill Clinton, he needs to put food on the table, and so does the guy James Patterson, who has $700 million because he's the most well-paid author in the world. And I'm not kidding. He's the most. I didn't know that. He has a $700 million fortune, and he's the most well-paid fiction author in the world. So then, basically, he brought up the whole thing with Monica Lewinsky and the Me Too movement, and
He himself brought it up.
No, Craig Melvin did.
Oh, okay.
So Clinton reacted to Melvin's questions with righteous indignation, behaving as if his legal battles that left him in debt were an appropriate price to pay for his indiscretions. In the train wreck interview, Clinton's statements reeked of a number of factual and logical errors. So he said, first of all, that nobody talks about Donald Trump's sexual harassment charges in the media. What do you guys think about that? Did you guys know that Donald Trump is accused of sexual harassment?
Yeah, I knew. But I don't think that case has gone anywhere in some time now.
How about you, number 80?
Doesn't he have like? It's funny because I know he has several cases, right? And even one where supposedly the girl was like underage or something.
Yeah, but that case, he was never even in the room with her. They can't even prove that he was in the room with her. They threw it out of court like 2 years ago almost. I mean, there was no.
I just know that he had a bunch of cases like pending, but like it's kind of weird because it's a slippery slope because one, you have especially with Morgan Freeman and all these.
Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, with the.
Hey, did you see the actual video though?
Yeah, I did.
Said, if you watch this video, you see him say, "Look me up and down and say, I wish I was there." Man, that man was tuned out. He was not paying attention to anything. He just seemed like he wanted to go home and take a nap.
Yeah, he seemed like he was interested in ending the interview.
Pretty much, right? But she's like, Oh, I know that was just a small clip, but he said more, but unfortunately we didn't have it on camera. That's because it didn't fucking happen.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty. They basically character assassinated him last week, and I'm glad most people have seen through it. I think people have seen through it.
We hope.
Because I don't believe I don't believe for a minute it was the same thing that happened to the other guy, Aziz Ansari last year. So I don't know if you've heard of that one.
Yeah, when she was like, he was trying to get it on with her, and she wasn't feeling it, but then she kept going with it.
Yeah, she had sex with him and then regretted it, and then she considers that rape.
Yeah.
She pulled a Lena Dunham on him. So then Clinton said that he thinks that Starbucks and the Me Too thing and the Time's Up movements are great, but the thing is that he said that because he believes that this would give victims more recourse to prevent themselves from becoming victims anymore. The fact is, though, I don't know if you guys know it, but in 1997, the Supreme Court ruled in a case called Clinton versus Jones. That was the case that decided that the president could be sued, and the only reason that it had to happen was because Clinton refused to accept that the president could be sued while he was in office. And that for him to go all the way to the other side of the spectrum and say, "Oh, it's good now we can actually have women come forward." Well, when he was president, he was legally on the other side of the argument. So he wasn't only the main defendant in the case. I mean, he was the main defendant in the case, but the other defendant was his bodyguard, who was an Arkansas state trooper named Danny Ferguson. So not only was he complicit, or not only was he the instigator, he was using a police officer as his accessory, as his assistant in this crime, if you want to call it a crime. So that's another thing that he did. That most people didn't notice it. And then Clinton claimed that he had a sexual harassment policy as governor in the 1980s. So he says that on camera 2 days ago. Yet by the accounts of Arkansas State Troopers Roger Perry and Larry Patterson, he had ordered them to assist him in both pursuing his female targets as well as in keeping the liaisons under wraps. So they would have to drive his, the other fine ladies that he would bang. They would drive them over to where he was. They would drive him to their houses. They would intimidate them into keeping silent. They would bring hush money to them, things like that. In order to keep other troopers from going public, he appointed the head of the protective detail, Buddy Young, to a management position at FEMA. So that was Bill Clinton's attitude towards Me Too back when he actually had political power. So this had to be one of the worst interviews I've ever seen. And then in order to deflect from that, he said, well, would you have told JFK or LBJ to resign? Now, the difference between him and the other presidents was that when he was president, most people didn't know that JFK was having affairs. And then with Lyndon Johnson, they only found out about 30 years later they was having affairs. What about, number 80, what do you think about the president, if he cheats on his wife in office? Is that really the issue, or are you talking about something totally different with Bill Clinton here?
You talking about cheat? So, wait, hold on. Say your question again. Is you saying that Bill Clinton, you're bringing up Bill Clinton and his past, and then you're saying about the president sitting in office and cheating?
Yeah,
didn't he do it before that?
Well, that's what he was bringing up with JFK and Lyndon Johnson.
Oh, okay. All right, I think I go with you, bro. I find it very ironic that he went on stage. You need to send me that link to that video. I got to see that. That's hilarious. So he went on stage and he basically talked about how the Me Too movement and everything else is such a perfect idea while kind of being, I guess, kind of advocating against himself, I guess, in a weird way.
Yeah, because his actions as governor were completely the opposite, and as president, he was actually being sued because he didn't accept that the president could be sued for sexual harassment. And then
Wow.
then the Supreme Court ruled that he was wrong, and then after that, he was indeed sued by Paula Jones, and he had to settle out of court. So without admitting guilt. So technically, he's still innocent until proven guilty. Um, so anyway, I think we've gone on long enough. I know it's pretty late where you are. I would say, this article is on the Hard News Network. Arjun, I didn't get your opinion on that before I think we can close for the night. But what's your opinion on that? If something like this happened in India, where a politician is caught, covering up affairs using police protection in order to intimidate witnesses and stuff, is that something that's considered, enough to remove him from office?
Yeah, if you can indict him, see, I like I don't know. Affairs are not that high on the list of why a politician should get impeached from office, right? Because I don't know. That's in the matter of in the realm of personal sort of like whatever he wants to do in his personal life. But if he's using state resources to sort of criminally intimidate people, that's a different matter, right? That comes into a different misusing government, the resources of the government. That yes, that is an impeachable offense. Like, but in Indians don't have a stellar record of arresting and imprisoning politicians. Like, you'll be able to count them on one hand, like how many politicians have ever gone to jail for after being convicted.
Yeah, a lot of people are bringing up Lena Dunham in the chat.
Mm.
That's pretty funny. They're asking, who would try to rape her, and they're bringing up that video of her sitting on a toilet or something eating cake, which was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. So before we all get too unfocused, let's have a last word from both of you, or unless you don't want to. Number 80. The summer is ahead. The NBA is probably going to be, the game 4. I'm predicting, the Warriors are going to win. What's left to really look forward in the summer? Most of these movies suck. Han Solo and or just Solo, whatever it is. And there's no big sports events besides the World Cup. What are you going to do the whole summer? Aren't you off from school?
Yeah, it's funny that boxing match got canceled too. The Canelo versus Triple G. I was looking forward to that, man. So I don't know. I guess wait till football. My team seems really stacked.
Yeah, the Rams do look like they're gonna really be great.
Yeah, they look stacked, man. I'm like, all right.
Their defense is insane.
Yeah, they were already really good on defense, so we just got a lot better too. So I'm looking forward to that. But I was looking forward to the boxing match. That's not happening. It's funny because I went to I saw an early screening of a movie yesterday, Predator. I'm not looking forward to that when it comes out. But what else? I'm just chilling, man. I might go to Vegas too. I'm thinking about that. Take a little break from school.
And for you, Arjun, what are you going to use? I mean, I don't know if it's a summer vacation, but is there anything for you to look forward to in the next couple months? I know the NFL doesn't even matter over there, just like it's about to not matter over here. So things are. I think the world is looking on an upswing, given what's happening in Italy. What do you feel about India?
Like, the cricket season is over. Like, I have to wait for the India England tour now. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But the fact is, as far as as far as news and politics go, yeah, Italy is a big sign for as it was in India, that the world is turning conservative. I've always maintained this. Like, of late, the number of countries which are turning to and right wing parties, the whole conservative. And I'm just here to like basically I'm here sitting with popcorn and coke, like sitting waiting for the left establishment world over to like sort of burn down to the ground. So yeah, I'm more of an anarchist that way, like metaphorically speaking, or not literally.
Right. You're kind of playing the violin while Rome burns, so to speak.
Oh,
Or
well done, Nero
yeah.
quote,
Yeah.
huh? Quoting Nero.
All right. So you guys can look forward to some more content. Next week might be an interview on Hard News Network with the Mattis
Nice.
File people. By the way, I encourage anybody who hasn't read it yet. We're talking about really exposing fake news. And who knows? I mean, there's always new things to investigate. And I think you can take an example from, what I try to do on this channel and what other small channels try to do. You yourself can probably do some investigations and discover something that could help, the community around you and the country as a whole. That's good night. Everybody say good night and fuck the Eagles.
I don't have a dog in this ring, so
Well, to the comment section, you guys should definitely go look up Christopher Dorner.
The Christopher Donor thing, yeah. You know what? Maybe can you bring in? Maybe one day we'll do a dedicated show on that one, on him and the Linwood people.
That'll be nice. And we're supposed to do a music thing too, right? That'll be interesting.
Oh, the music thing. Yeah, I have to plan that out. I also have to see if the one that I wanted to do, if it would violate copyright, because YouTube gives you a strike for that. So I'll let you know.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. For sure.
All right. So yeah, I'll be in touch with all you guys, and have a good night.
All right. Adios.
all right, good night.
Good night.